Good afternoon or evening. Well, it's still afternoon, a little after 4 o'clock. I am headed up to New York this evening. So I will be up in New York for the next 10 days and then coming back here to Windermere, Florida. And let me go sit a little bit over here. Anyway, back in Florida in the next 10 days. So in the workshop we were doing today, the question that was coming up from people was, what's the most important thing we can do for our brain health? And some people thought it was exercising, which it is, and exercising as in aerobic, as in anaerobic, as in flexibility. Some other people thought it was most important to sleep and that you get a good night's sleep. Well, we know more and more about the importance of sleep as it cleans out toxins that are in our brain and some of the links that they're finding that have an impact. So now you talk about, well, exercise. Well, I think exercise is important. Well, why? Because it's important for the brain to get oxygen, and the brain is using about 20% of the oxygen we breathe is consumed by our brain. So you couldn't disagree with those that felt oxygen was the most important thing to our brain. And of course, when you begin to realize that a good night's sleep it helps us to stay awake and not lose focus on things and help us find new ideas and better ways of doing things. So you had sleep is certainly one that was important. Somebody jumped in and said, well, it's important we play Sudokus and crossword puzzles and we dance and we do different mental activities. And so there's no question that mental challenges or learning to continue to learn is an important ingredient that is being proven over again in the research world that talks about we should adapt to principles of learning forever, and we should make that a long-term goal in our life, especially if we want to get old. As we get older, we want to get older, and we want to be able to continue to have our memories and our ability to maintain cognitive fitness, or as I call it, brain fitness. So it's important to know that learning new things is important. So now we have exercise, we talk about sleep, we talk about learning new things, so you have that brain constantly focused and working to picking up new things that it wants to continue to learn and utilize in its life. Well, what else are some of the things? Well, somebody jumped in and said nutrition. Well, yeah, okay. So the foods we eat, the proteins, the carbs, the sugars, the different things that we put in, all have a difference. The fats that we take, want to make sure we're taking the unsaturated fats. We want to make sure we're having the right amount of protein on a daily basis. We certainly want to make sure that we do have carbs, which is a balance. We only about a balanced diet. It seems to be, to me, the repetitive mantra of how we maintain good physical structure as well as good mental and brain fitness for long-term thinking capacities as well as long-term breathing and living capacities. All right, so we kept going. One came back and said, well, gee, just by being in this workshop, we make friends, right? We make friends, and we no longer feel isolated, or we don't feel that we're lonely. And so they reached the conclusion in the work group that, well, social interaction is important, and meeting people and having friends. And one gentleman made a comment that, my goodness, all of the folks that I knew and I thought of as my dear friends have all passed away. So I feel lonely. I feel like, why am I still here? Well, you're here to meet these people that are in this work group, and therefore your social isolation is one clearly coming through the world of COVID that's having an impact that is not positive. So social interaction is important. And how we have picked up the different elements of Zooms and phone calls and texting and webinars and things of any sort that keep us socially engaged with people. So we maintain social connection with those around us, so we don't feel lonely and we don't feel isolated, but that we do feel like there are people that care about us and we have a purpose in life in terms of helping others. So it was interesting. One of the people in the work group basically said, "Well, coming to this workshop has given me a purpose, and I love to help other people, and so this has given me a place to come to where by helping others, it's helping me." And that sounded pretty darn good. So think about that. By helping others, it helps me. I had somebody say to me, "My goodness, just engaging with you, I should pay you for the engagement, the time that we get to spend, and just having the dialogue and the questions and the things that we have are just amazing." And so the ability to challenge my mind and keep my thinking going is rewarding and extremely beneficial to me. So we had a whole range of answers. And then finally, somebody tapped on the last one that I think is important to our long-term cognitive fitness and mental health, and that is how we handle stress in our lives. And how we handle stress is an interesting one, because there are some stress, like if you're working out, you're going to the gym, where you want to constantly stress your muscles. But then somebody said, "But wait a minute, as we get older, do we want to keep stressing our muscles, or do we want to just figure out how to do the proper exercising to maintain or tone them to keep them from degrading on us?" So might there not be a point in our lives where we might overkill? Because this person was saying to me, "By goodness, I was doing exercise and thought I had to push the exercise. I wind up tearing some muscles, and boy, did I pay for that for a lot longer than if I would have stayed at the level that I was at, instead of trying to push it and try to exceed what my physical capabilities are." So we talk about stressing muscles as being a good thing, but overstressing them is not a good thing. Well, what about emotional stress? So we have got into this discussion about feelings. Is it important for people to understand one another's feelings? Does that have anything to do with cognitive fitness? Well, if you read the research on emotional stress, when we're putting our bodies in a fight or flight response, we're pushing excess cortisol in through our bloodstreams, and excess cortisol starts shutting down and starts increasing toxins in our body, and starts flooding our body systems with toxins that are poisonous. So we got into the discussion about, well, then some stress is good for you because it keeps you to grow, and other stress can be degrading, and it can actually cause you to break down and erode your physical conditions. And so when you took all 6 of those elements together, it was an interesting conversation, because you asked a group of people, of the 6 that we've just talked about, and we could probably find a couple more, but of these 6, which one's the most important? Based on the conversation that we just had, we start with the fact that exercise brings us our blood flow. Sleeping takes the toxins out of our body. Mental challenges gives us new dendritic spines. The neuroplasticity is what they were discussing today. Social interactions keep us from feeling isolated or alone, give us purpose and reason for continuing to go on. Our nutrition is not just good for our mental health, certainly good for our heart health and for all the other physiologies within our human body. And our ability to have resilience, the ability to have resilience, is clearly critical in getting through these times of COVID and keeping us moving forward. So I posed it back to him: is there really one that's more important than the other, or don't you need a holistic system of all 6 of these critical elements that can make a difference in your long-term physical health as well as your long-term mental health? That's my Live with Tony for this Friday. I am off this evening, heading towards New York. Next week, I'll have a few days in Mystic, Connecticut, doing some work with a grocery chain there. And I shall be back here on April 6th. But in the meantime, I do plan to do my Live with Tony's on Monday and Friday of next week. I'll probably miss Wednesday, but Monday and Friday, I shall be back, or at least giving it a go, and seeing you from New York. Have a good week. By the way, it's 81 degrees here in Windermere, and I hear New York is going to be in for some cold weather next week. So not sure I'm overly excited about it, but I'm on my way regardless.